Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Dragon Ball Nation. Now today we're giving you guys another Dragon Ball Super discussion, and joining me today is...
Hey guys, it's Mike here from Laughing Stock Media. How's it going?
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about the strength of Kaba, and I guess the Super Saiyan form as well. And I know I'm a little late on this topic, but it's something I wanted to cover because I've seen people get this information wrong, and we're not going to obviously pinpoint it to the most accurate degree, but I feel like me and Mike are going to come up with one of the better, I guess, ranges of powers. Not to stroke my own ego there. But, Mike, let's talk about what we first need to really understand, because we saw base form Kaba and base form Vegeta fight. And what we really need to let the fans know is how strong we think, and a lot of people also agree with this, Goku and Vegeta's base forms are bare minimum at this point. I think me and you both agree that they have to be most likely stronger than Buhan in their base, which, by the way, is the strongest form of Majin Buu out there. Wouldn't you agree with that, Mike?
Yes, I think that the evidence supports it based upon, how strong Gohan was, and he was still getting dominated in Resurrection F by Frieza, and how effortlessly they killed Tagoma, and then Goku was still dominating Frieza after he powered up to his final form before the Golden form. Also, we have further evidence as of late, with the episode in which Copy Vegeta was fighting against Gotenks as a Super Saiyan 3, and he was effortlessly beating him down. Like, he was taking his strongest hits to the face, and it was doing literally nothing to him, and then he basically one-shots him. So I think it's safe to say at this point that they're stronger, because when you think about it, Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks isn't really that much weaker than Buhan. He's probably like 2 to 3 times weaker, at if that. So I think it only makes sense that they're significantly stronger than, every other character in Z up until that point, and probably a good deal stronger than Buhan as well.
Now, when we look at, and you actually remind me of something, I'm going to get into this a little bit later in the video, when you talked about Gotenks, it reminded me of that fight and the performance there. Kaba, we saw that Vegeta, he's not going all out in this whole fight. I think a lot of people have misinterpreted this fight, thinking that Kaba has had the edge in certain points, right? So don't really understand. Yeah, Vegeta gets hit in the stomach, but Vegeta, at the beginning of the fight, is not even really trying. He's just like, standing there waiting to see what Kaba's all about, blocks the first hit, is dodging some stuff and, blocking and having just their bouts. And then, Kaba does that punch. It was a shot he didn't expect coming. It's going to hurt. That's how Dragon Ball works. If you don't see an attack coming, most likely it's going to hurt you, depending on how the writing team likes to, interpret that. But we do see that, and, Vegeta's not really trying. And even when he goes Super Saiyan, Vegeta tanks that punch from Kaba like it's nothing. And that's when you talk about Gotenks, that's very reminiscent of how Gotenks was hitting the Copy Vegeta. It did nothing, and maybe you could probably gauge them a little bit.
I do think that there is an interesting point to bring up, though. When Vegeta is a Super Saiyan and he's beating the crap out of Kaba, he's doing it as a Super Saiyan, so I kind of wonder, how strong is Kaba's base that he could take that kind of punishment, and just how much can Vegeta lower the Super Saiyan levels to?
Yeah, because he's definitely, you can tell, he's definitely not using the full potential of Super Saiyan at all in this fight, because we do even see, maybe he increased the power that he was outputting to tank this hit, but when Kaba tries to come out with a powerful punch, Vegeta absolutely does not flinch and tanks the hit completely. And that kind of, which you might mention how you might think maybe Super Saiyan forms work. Now, that could kind of show why the base Kaba was, kind of performing better, I suppose, in a way. Mike, do you want to kind of explain what you maybe theorize how Super Saiyan could work? No.
Okay, so during an interview with Akira Toriyama, he stated that they are going to work on their Super Saiyan 1 and their base forms and work on powering those up. He specifically said those. So it's a possibility that during the training with Whis, they have somehow learned to access their full Super Saiyan 2 and 3 power in their normal Super Saiyan form. So as a result, Super Saiyan could possibly now be pushed up to a 400 times multiplier as opposed to simply a 50. So if Vegeta and Kaba were, say, equal in their base, or even close, it's still a possibility that Vegeta could just take a full punch to the face with no damage whatsoever, being a Super Saiyan, because he can access 4 times as much power, or actually 8 times as much power as Kaba can. So I think it's entirely possible that that is a reason why it seemed like even though they were both in the same form, Vegeta was significantly more powerful than Kaba at that point in time.
And I think that could make sense, because if you do look at the base form fight, there's definitely more of a closer... It appears, depending on how, you know, how much Vegeta is going out in his base, there seems to be closer. They definitely seem to be closer in that fight, in their base.
I'm not saying, of course, you know, for people in the comments section, that that is an absolute certainty. We don't know for a fact, but I think that that does kind of fit in with the scenario that we saw and we witnessed in the tournament, and it could explain what Toriyama was talking about and why they don't use those forms and simply turn to blue. Because realistically, Vegeta, you know, when he was facing Megetta, why didn't he just turn to a Super Saiyan 2 and effortlessly beat him? You know what I mean? If he can get 2 times stronger instead of going all out and using the final flash as a normal Super Saiyan, it's probably because they no longer need to, but that's just my assumption.
Right, well, I see what you mean, but, I mean, we can both agree that regardless of, you know, how much power Vegeta was, let's say, outputting in his base when he was fighting Kaba, that fight did look closer, but we don't know what percent Vegeta was going at. I'm assuming Kaba was probably going somewhat near all out. It seemed like, I don't know his fighting style, so I don't know, but... Just from my, you know, it swayed my opinion a little bit from what we've been talking about. The very bare minimum I could ever see Kaba's base form being would be normal Super Buu, and that's the bare minimum.
Yes.
But from what we're talking about, I think I could even put it closer to Buhan. I don't know how you feel.
Well, I could definitely see that as well. The only problem is, how the hell did he get so strong in just his base form alone to be that powerful? A lot of people will immediately say, oh, he's just a base form Saiyan who can't even turn to a Super Saiyan. How does it make any sense at all that he could be that powerful? But that's what it kind of seems like we're witnessing when we watch the show and when we see that fight. I just think it's because Universe 6 characters are ridiculously powerful, or at least the ones that Champa recruited. And there is an old interview, or it was the Daizenshuu, that stated that the tailless Saiyans are prodigies that have ridiculous power, which is probably why Goten and Trunks were so powerful and able to become Super Saiyans at such a young age, and why Kaba then himself says that none of them have tails anymore because they evolved past them, and he turns into a Super Saiyan so easily. It could be that Toriyama was basically basing it off of what he said in the past, and that's the whole reason why it ended up being that case.
No, I see what you mean. That definitely makes a lot of sense, and we don't know. Again, this goes for any discussion, honestly, for the people watching. We don't know how the writers are approaching things. We're just trying to dig into their minds and give our own thoughts and, you know, I guess headcanon really to it, and, you know, bounce it off for you guys watching the video, whether you agree or disagree. We're gonna get a little bit of each, but, you know, for the people watching, obviously give us your thoughts. We're very curious of what fans have to say. If they disagree, I completely urge you, don't be one of those people that just say, well, I think you guys are wrong, or you guys are stupid, or something like that. If you're going to say we're wrong, or you're going to say we're stupid, I ask you to please give us a chance and provide some evidence, because a lot of discussions that we have on Dragon Ball channels, people will say you're wrong, and, you know, it's just people in general, well, a lot of people will do this, they'll say you're wrong and not provide anything. I would prefer if you provide evidence, and then, you know, I have no problems if you disagree, just give us your own counterpoints. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, don't just say you're wrong and then just leave. You know, back up your reasoning for why we're wrong when we've seen the show so many times now, and we've studied the show way more than the vast majority of people. So
could even change our opinions. Who knows? I've had it happen before. Fans or subscribers or viewers have changed my opinions on things. So drop them down below. But before I close this video out, please subscribe to Mike from Laughing Stock Media's channel. More power scaling stuff there, more Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super movies. What else, Mike?
Don't they know what I do by now?
New people probably don't.
Movies, Dragon Ball, WWE, and basically a lot of awesome stuff that I like to talk about. So go over there, check me out, and subscribe, and I'll bring you some awesome content.
Yep, and other than that, guys, I'd like to thank you guys all for watching this video. Share your thoughts down below, and I'll catch you later.
Hasta la vista!